the Survivor Showcase. Destiny.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Paul and I were trying to program last year. It got postponed to this year, so I'm so excited. I'm ready to hear everyone's pieces. Like, can't wait. I've been wanting to do this for a year now. But thank you, everybody, for coming. Like he said, my name is Destiny. I am a rape survivor, so this program means a lot to me. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for coming out.
All right. So the woman behind the entire event is Destiny. I'm just running the ones and twos tonight. My name is Paul LaTorre. I am professor of creative writing and English and other things. And I love this place. Bloomfield College is hosting this event, the humanities department. I want to give a big round of applause for our wonderful administration and Dr. Marquita Evans, who is just a powerhouse in her own right. She wrote our introduction for I Can't Breathe magazine during the summer, and I swear, y'all, it had me in tears, and just feeling empowered and wanting to conquer injustice. And this is just another layer of our fight for social justice, is that it goes, you know, it transcends, and we have to defend. We have to fight, stand up and fight for all the causes of allyship, and survivorship is a really important one to myself and all of the poets and artists at the showcase. So I want to welcome formally, and also Dr. Michael Palladino, who is our Vice President of Academic Affairs. So tonight we finger snap, y'all. I mean, like all the poets in the room, we already know we finger snapping, but for the uninitiated, if you're feeling something anybody says, you can hit the reacts in the corner of your Zoom contraption. Y'all can blare the confetti, throw the hearts. What's up, Gerald? Y'all could really like go all out with the emojis, but around here we finger snap. All right. That's how we feel. That's how we feel heard. That's our soul. So I'm gonna get things started tonight. I'm introducing Jodie Ortega. She is a mentor, a powerhouse poet. She works counseling survivors. She is just all around. I mean, like her work speaks for itself. She's done TEDx talks on survivorship. She is fire, Roz. She really is fire. And if you want to follow her, she'll tell you where to follow her. It's at Don't Run, Baby Girl. But I'm gonna welcome up to the stage. I'm gonna stop taking up space, Jodie Ortega.
Thank you for rolling that R. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. So Jodie Ortega, my pronouns are she and her. And yeah, I see Paul has put up my very first piece when I was 6 years old. But before I get to that, I just want to start off with, as poets and academics, we understand the power of language. And we understand that if words have the ability to harm and destroy, we know that they have the ability to repair and build. And when we use language to talk about sexual violence, we have to highlight the absence of consent and how that looks in a multitude of ways. So when I am talking about consent, I am keeping in mind the absence of consent when Europeans committed genocide over many generations to colonize the lands that we are standing on. And when I'm talking about consent, I'm keeping in mind the continuing colonial genocide that is non-consensual land occupation and resource extraction. And when I'm talking about consent, I'm keeping in mind the ongoing, intentionally unsolved cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And so it is so important that I start off by saying that I am an uninvited guest on the stolen ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And I acknowledge that I am unable to live, work, and raise my family without using the resources of this land. And as such, I am often complicit in colonial systems that perpetuate violence against Indigenous peoples. And if you're curious to know about the Indigenous land that you're standing on, afterwards I'll put on the chat the website nativeland.ca, just so you can look that up yourself. So this first piece is from my school journal, and I'm going to be sharing two pieces with you that are 30 years apart. And so this was written on Tuesday, 16th of June, 1987. And I'm going to read this. If you can see closely, my teacher corrected me, but I'm going to not read that part. I'm going to read the original part of it. And it says, I pray to God and went to bed. My dream was a monster. He was so ugly and wicked. He had pointed nails and he had dirty nose. And he tried to kill me with a knife. I tried to yell so loud. Then my dad killed the monster and went to bed. And I was 6 years old. And by this time, the sexual abuse from a family member had been going on for 2 years already. And it would go on till I was 14. And so as a kid, I always changed the ending of my poetry and short stories to where my parents actually did something to protect me. I gave it a better ending, or they protect me, or they would kill my rapist. But in reality, that's not what had happened. And I was raised in cultures where there was an absence of consent. And what happened to me was 1,000,000% preventable, right? And so trauma survivors, we share this unspeakable bond, and in their face, I recognize the familiar pain that can easily go unnoticed by non-survivors. And we're relieved to be given space to talk and be understood without the burden of explanation. We feel at ease to show our pain rather than hide it for the sake of others who find our suffering unbearable to witness. And in short, survivors often need the kind of understanding that only a fellow survivor can give you, such as a showcase like this. And at first glance, this trauma club may look like a pretty shitty club to belong to, but it is full of the bravest souls I have ever known, courageous and insightful souls who have risen above the countless judgments of others. And yet, we all wish we could jump ship, that we could have met each other another way, any other way but this. We had history, Notre Dame, East Van, class of 98. Schoolwork was a lot for him to juggle. Isolation and fear tried his best to make him buckle. He wanted to be brave, like how the lion saved Dorothy. But this world could be wicked like the witch, bankrupt morally. How could he speak up when society still makes rape against boys a parody? How could he speak up when society still makes rape against boys a parody? My public disclosure in 2014 gave him the green light. And in a message to me, he wrote, "Because of you, I had the courage to say something. Because of you, I had the courage to say something. Because of you, I had the courage to say something." Hey, what's up? I was thinking about you. Since the last time we talked, I told a few people I was close to. These days, I'm feeling happy in my own skin. I'm moving forward instead of questioning what could have been. And yeah, I've been taking more risks. I'm feeling confident. You see, his positive life changes were evident. Back when he first heard my story, he could see his reflection. Understanding connects humanity. We are hardwired for human connection. 2012, it was my first group therapy session and I was nervous. I spent the night before battling insomnia. Little did I know that life was going to change when I sat across from Geneva. We looked nothing alike, yet we shared a similar childhood, difficulty in relationships and navigating through motherhood. And because of her, I had the courage to say something. Because of her, I had the courage to say something. Because of her, I had the courage to say something. Back when I first heard her story, I could see my reflection. Understanding connects humanity. We are hardwired for human connection. But she said to me, "Jodie, it's not easy because I'm trying to be a strong Black woman, but I'm surrounded by Confederate flags and sexism. Girls raised only to learn how to cook and make babies under religious extremism. Friends asked her. Her friends asked her, hey, did you yell? Did you scream? Well, how did he get in between? How can you speak up when society's doubting you? How can you speak up in Trump's America? Male entitlement to a vagina. Can you speak up when there's no one defending you? Verse 3, my hero and his bravery, because of ongoing discussions about body autonomy, he knew he was the boss of his body, no apology. So he found it easy to come to me when the neighborhood kid touched him inappropriately. It takes two to break a secret. Two to break a secret, two to break a secret. He talked while I listened, and he knew he was the hero, not the villain. He knew that between him and I, there are no secrets, only surprises, and that I'll always believe him if he ever receives a touch uninvited. Who knew? 4 years after breaking my own silence begun, my work came back around to eventually help my own son. I'ma love you forever, like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby, you'll be. I'ma love you forever, like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby, you'll be. I'ma love you forever, and I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby will be. Hey, when will society take rape against boys seriously? Because even the principal dismissed my son's assault as a parody. Jodie, 12-year-old boys grab each other in the private parts. That's what she said. And I'm not kidding you. Her lack of understanding boundaries and consent proves we got a lot of work to do. But because of me, he had the courage to say something. Because of me, he had the courage to say something. Because of me, he had the courage to say something. Understanding connects humanity. We are hardwired for human connection. What's worse than your child being raped is your child never telling you. What's worse than your child being raped is your child left without a clue of who to tell, who to trust, who to blame. Was it just, wait, was it just a figment of my imagination? No. Perhaps they knew that they should, that they could, they just didn't know how. They might even think it's something they have to allow. But if consent and boundaries are a part of your vernacular, best believe you will grow up to become an ambassador, to speak for the voiceless, the ones suffering in silence, the ones without better life choices because they're accustomed to violence. You know this. It takes two to break up. Two to break a secret, two to break a secret, two to break a secret, one to tell, one to listen. And if you ever find yourself in this position, remember Alyssa, Christina, Kelly, and Maya. Back when I first heard their stories, I saw my reflection. Understanding connects humanity. We are hardwired for human connection. So, dear child, we speak so that trauma does not have the last word. We speak for those not ready to be heard. Dear child, we believe there is no limit to your becoming. And because of us, we hope you have the courage to say something. And peace.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Right,
Amazing.
yeah.
Powerful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Loved it.
Powerful.
Powerful.
Great.
Right, that's right.
Chills.
Wow.
Hey, Jodie, I never.
Beautiful.
Ooh, great
You
job,
guys
Judy.
created this, Paul.
Yeah.
Destiny. Thank you for this space.
Thank you for filling it with such power and necessary. I feel seen. It's beautiful. I really don't have words. Jodie, where can everybody find you?
On Instagram at Don't Run Baby Girl. And I'm gonna stay for the roundtable. I'll also put my email in the chat if you wanna connect. I will also put that nativeland.ca on the chat as well.
Thank you.
And thank you, Paul. Thank you, Destiny. To the poets that are about to come up, thank you so much for sharing your space. And non-survivors, listen, but also do your own learning. Okay, it's important. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love you. Thank you, Jodie.
I love you too.
Y'all peep, we're both rocking denim. Today is, denim day. So it's a sign of solidarity. So if y'all got denim in your closets, like right there, just go grab a denim, whatever, jacket, shirt. If you got, most of y'all probably don't have pants on, it's okay. But today is denim day. I'm just letting y'all know, if you want to show solidarity, it happens every April around the end of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, oh my God, just like I don't know what to do with myself after that. I do know actually what to do. I'm gonna throw it to another brilliant poet. I first heard this poet perform about, Jeans on the Couch, that still counts, Brew, that still counts. I heard this poet perform at the Nuyo about 2 months ago at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, for those uninitiated. I heard this next poet perform, and I had a game plan in mind. I was like, I'm going to read this piece. I forget what it was on. I was like, I'm so hyped to read this piece. And then she came on and read her piece. And just like what happened with Jodie, my heart just bursted. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm no longer going with my game plan. So I had to share a piece of mine that speaks on my truth. So please welcome to the stage. I'm going to let her just blow everybody's mind right now. Please welcome Tori Lutz to the stage.
Hi, so I'm actually doing that poem tonight, but I'm also doing another one after.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so the first one I'm doing, it's called Nice Guys. It's like a much more general commentary kind of a poem, and the second one's a lot more personal. So if I cry, I'm already sorry in advance, but here we go. Okay. So you're a nice guy. You're the exception to the rule, the answer to my prayers, the proof that goodness can come with a dick. Yet you belittle me for being afraid of you. You call me sexist and ignorant and uptight because I am unable to see your superhero-like chivalry at first glance, and then you tell me that you understand. Put yourself in my shoes. When you came to college, you bought cologne and condoms and booze. When I came to college, I bought mace and a pocket knife and a rape whistle. When you were in high school, you were taught to have safe sex, while I was taught how to avoid being sexually assaulted. When you talk to a woman, you fear if the conversation will be successful and if you will say the right things and if she will be receptive to them. When I talk to a man, I fear being sexually harassed or drugged or pressured to be something that I'm not, so you don't understand. You don't know the fear that has been beaten into me by lessons from adults or pressures from our culture or personal experiences that have made me never want to leave my room again. It doesn't matter if 80% of the male population falls into this nice guy category when the other 20% is still out there looking just like you, talking just like you, showing no discernible difference from you until it's too late and we are considered the fools for not knowing better. When women are trained by significant others to present our open mouths for a dick to fit into upon request, when women are expected to dress to impress while also keeping ourselves covered so as not to be asking for it, when women are shown time and time again that if they do not respond accordingly to an unsolicited compliment, they will be cursed, ridiculed, insulted, and threatened, when women are brought up to always travel in groups and never go out alone and always be responsible for their own safety because you can't trust a stranger to be a decent human being. Tell me when we were supposed to learn to assume the best, to live without fear, to look at you and know that you're one of the nice guys who won't rape us, who won't hate us, who won't take us and break us and make us feel less than human and more like a doll to use at your convenience. When were we supposed to learn to trust you? Okay, and then I have a second one, so I think I'm just gonna go into that first before we talk, but this one's called Dear Anonymous. Dear Anonymous, I can still feel your skin, still taste your mouth on my tongue, see your grin in my dreams, smell your scent on my shirt when I never wanted to in the first place. I still hear your insincere words slurred. Your face, though blurred, still burns its memory into my mind. I tried to tell you that I wasn't yours. Wasn't yours to borrow, keep, release. Wasn't yours to take, break, sedate. Wasn't yours to use, peruse, or abuse. Wasn't yours. I still can't say your name. Though God knows I think little else on some days, I still mindlessly search myself for things I know aren't there, the things you took from me. The things I need for an ounce of sanity, believe me, their absence is heavier than the sum of their parts. My self-respect did little to make itself known, but the hole it left shattered dignity, assurance, and faith as well by not being there to string them together. The collapse provided a sick flick of the domino that destroyed love, trust, and lust as well. Boom! Each domino falls harder than the last, and their thuds project deafening echoes of the past. Pride, importance, stability, innocence fall with a crash, and I am left with nothing but a jagged ring of broken dominoes that used to stand with promise and strength and courage around my pillar of self-respect. And it sickens me that 1 in 3 American women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. 68% of these cases will go unreported. 98% of rapists will never spend a day in jail, and they, like you, will go on to ruin someone else's life over and over, and yet no one wants to hear about it anymore. It's just the same story, told again and again. No one cares just how long I lie awake in my bed. No one cares just how much you mess with my head, dear Anonymous. Next time, just get consent.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
I wish Zoom had
Whoa.
hug options.
For real. I agree with that 110%.
So Tori, can you please tell, take a second to breathe. I really appreciate you sharing that piece. I know how emotional it can make you. It is making you. So the line that you said about being our job to educate the boys and whatnot, that's something I think is really important. You know, like my survivorship, I don't just want to speak about being a victim. I also want to directly speak to those who may be assailants, whether any gender, you know, no matter what. But just the bravery in both of those pieces. And thank you for sharing them with us, Tori.
Thank you.
Where can people follow you?
Tori Lutz Poetry. I'll just drop the thing in the chat, but Tori Lutz Poetry on Instagram is where I'm at.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for killing the set. Okay, so coming up next to the stage, we have a little musical interlude. We're gonna change up from the poetry scene, and this next rock star, quite frankly, you hear him strumming. He is a mainstay at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and he performed this piece, and I heard it, and he reached out to me when I announced I was doing this showcase, and he just asked if he could be a part of it and be a conduit and deliver this beautiful message, because this night is also, it's not just about sexual assault, it's also about domestic abuse, because that is another really rampant issue, especially in the lockdown age, right, where people are just confined to a home and it might not be a safe home, right? So Joeski, take it away.
Thank you, Paul. I'm so honored to be here. Can you hear me okay? Coming through.
Perfect.
Something I wrote called Sad House. When a man beats his spouse in a sad house, control is what it's all about in a sad house. Well, the most important thing is to get away to somewhere safe. This violence won't end. Take a chance, my friend. Start again. A safe new beginning. Talking to the man now. Is it true you two were bruised in a sad house? He beat your mama and your siblings too. What a sad house. There's a sickness inside you, and it's time to change. Become sane. This violence you do, it's no good to lie. We see through you, and it's so wrong to ever hurt a woman. When someone beats their spouse in a sad house, control is what it's all about in a sad house. Well, the most important thing is to get away somewhere safe. This violence won't end. Take a chance, my friend. Start again. A safe new beginning in a sad house. What a madhouse in an angry house. What a sad house in a madhouse. What an angry house in a sad house. In a sad house.
Woo!
God.
Wow.
We are so excited.
The Gassan is turning.
Thank you so much.
So good. So good.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
beautiful.
allowing me
Thank
to
you.
share that.
In the chat, Amanda said this song is a meditation. Yeah, I really feel
It
just
is.
soothed by
It is.
Joeski all the time, but especially that piece.
Where
Joeski.
can we hear that? Where can we hear that again, please?
So it's not recorded yet.
Oh, I'm looking
You know,
forward to that.
honestly, the song's about 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm working on an album right now, and perhaps I'll include it. It's not,
Yeah.
I haven't made the decision
Please.
yet, but
If you upload that to Spotify, Bandcamp, iTunes, anywhere, I'm buying it everywhere. So just, you got at least 27 folks who are, buying right now if you drop that track. Thank you, Joeski. Where can we follow you on social media?
Joeski C. Joeskisea, like the ocean.
Thank you
And,
so much, brother. I appreciate you. You bring waves to all of us like the ocean. Your work is so important, so valuable. This man has done pieces on the border, the children caged at the border. He speaks out just profusely against, police brutality. Follow him on the gram. He's a great follow because he's always sharing haiku, and most of them are just brilliant, sharp snippets against the system, the oppressive system we exist under. So next up, coming to the stage is someone I don't have to introduce for very long because it's myself. And I'm gonna get into my pieces, my story. This first piece was published in my book that came out last year. And it's the first piece I ever wrote speaking on my violation, speaking on, me telling my story. So this is called Dark Arts. And if you notice words in Latin, that's from Harry Potter. So unless you're a Harry Potter head, you might not get exactly what spells I'm casting, or unless you're a Bruja, you might not get exactly what spells I'm casting, but for all the Brujas in the room, you'll get it. All right, Dark Arts. The sex is not the type with nails dug in and marks on back. It's the type where you call them back later that day to ask if they got home okay. It's the kind you can't connect to consciousness long enough to muster words either way, silencio. Where you seem present, but spectral hover above the bed, Wingardium Leviosa, like some myrtle ghost of dissociate, polyjuice brewing others faced, left hand gone translucent, evanesco. And there's no one there to pull you through, just apparition of you vanishing. So sure, you relent, turn serious black, ridiculous shadow you unfold in defense. The girl I lost my virginity to raped me twice in my room. The door open in broad afternoon. And I know what you'll say. Men can't be raped. It doesn't work like that. Anatomically, one must keep up in order to penetrate, but I am living testament contrary. In some strange way, I thought her rapaciousness praise. That being ensnared by her could validate manliness, someone wanting this chubby muggle kid so much they tear through clothes, objections, and protection spells. She made me forget myself, Olivia. This girl was sorceress, a contortionist, bending bodily frame and brain and eye. No escape artist, couldn't conjure cloak of invisible, caught in grip of constrictor, hips, writhing wand while hex left lips imperious. But what if doors are not patronuses to keep Death Eaters at bay, but rather portholes to be breached? Disarming spells you thought would help you erase details, the gray of the wallpaper, cold of the sheets, day of the week, the snakes in her hair, red or green, that every impression impressed can latch onto you and sink fangs into. I was caught between Nagini gaze and some hard place stupefy. Escape became astral plane, trapped in chest, bound to bed. The second time didn't get to use protection. She woke me up and rode, cackling as I said no, like it's a joke. I felt like that though. Anytime I brought up my violation, it was turned anecdote. Shit, she could rape me any day, you know? Comedian Terry Crews was mocked when he accused a man of sexually abusing him. Imagine what I get. Trauma's not some stand-up act. See, when I'd confess, felt so unbelief repressed, I stopped trying to. And I know our kind are due millennia negative back karma. Men are snakes, dumb and often venomous, wrapping prey in anaconda vice. We bar hop carnage and force down limbs before digest, swallow whole through esophagus, but I hadn't fed on anyone. I was only 17, annihilate. Man up. You must have wanted it. Man, always consent. Incorrect. Fathom backing a stance so radioactive. Imagine dragons nesting in multitudes on top of you, teething. Fantastic beasts consuming lock and key as their mother did, hung in the upside down levicorpus. Rape is about power, not sex. A display of dominance, and she who shall not be named lorded hers over me. Sorceress left hurriedly, only to text the next day and say she was carrying. It had to be mine, that as a man you have to provide. And I wanted anything but that to be true, to tether us. When asked by friends why I wouldn't raise my kid to be just like me, one devoid of empathy, kind to breed this raisin feast and let all he holds dear be seized, only no seed formed in womb. Fruitless as the lies she told, one more contortion act. We slept together 4 more times after that. And I know I never should have let her back in. Aloha Mora. Returning to the scene means I was culpable, not real victim. I must be extra, stretching truth as all men do, incendio. But when has intimacy ever been clean? Do we not all hold and hide our own horcruxes? At least now, I can recognize a parcel-tongued dragon mother when I see one, and I'm not too fond of being called boy who survived, because there are many parts of me which have not. As cabanning failed spells to break the bond and lock that door, colloportus, casting out those hoping to keep you prisoner, pleading release, relatio, stuck in state of half awake, bound like sleep paralysis, the body at rest and arrest in one, petrificus totalis, even in midst of an act as honest as consented sex, it follows you, as dementors do. Creaks of rusty bed springs memory, and there you lay, a port key splayed, conjuring logic why perhaps now you crave control, and see the macabre in all things. But no longer mesmerized. I learned to recite unforgivable curses which bind regardless of sex, of aggressor, crucio, trying its best to slither in, shedding skin of every snake that made you pray, renovate, and if they ever try again, to pry their way in, simply point and say, Avada Kedavra. All right, for those who don't, that's the killing spell, so yeah. All right, this next piece is short. I don't usually write short pieces, but this was inspired by some real life shit. This is called Random Triangle. When your rapist pops up in Facebook suggested friends, There's not much suspense trying to triangulate the 9 degrees of Kevin Bacon that tether you to this trigger of folks you may know. And you can't fight the antediluvian wave that floods back their naked body, that scraggly patch on pelvic bone, a random triangle of wiry black tangle poking at wild angles, wishing you held an eraser for genitalia, some absentia pill or proton pack to compartmentalize the potent ghosts of these repressed memories. But since you don't hold any remedy to this Venus flytrap of suffering, you relent to its clutch of you and grip as you go limp, wondering if all your objections sounded anything like drunken guttural yeses. And since Zuckerberg hasn't yet patented, sold, and benefited off this algorithm yet, you swipe to reject, to dismiss this reliving. But you don't forget. All right, and I got one last piece. Let me gear up and make sure that this is good. Because sometimes my mail likes to just end poems half of the way through. All right, cool. This is called Graduate. Can I graduate? My high school commencement barely came. It was more like pre-cum, no latte. Had to drag my sad bag of bones and cartilage out of bed, out of the depths, and into virtuous grounds of Our Lady of Good Counsel on Summer Ave, not to confess, just to cross that threshold and complete the ceremonial rites and steps to become a man. Feeling every bit underdeveloped, a flunky failure, unworthy of that congratulatory strut in cap and gown, barely made it to graduation, skipped 81 days that year. See, most of my friends didn't know, some still don't, that I was raped that May, my senior year, 6 months away from becoming a man. And you know, most survivors will go their entire lives shouldering that baggage, that satchel of rocks, and never once stop to unpack to lovers, friends, or therapists. Endless repression, mentally spent, as if my truth would come at the price of peace. And I'd much rather be the albatross hung around neck than some weak-ass mess who couldn't push a 90-pound girl off his chest. All too often, life as a survivor means a series of endless deaths. The incident revisited and replayed again. Each instance you get intimate, swells and crests of pressure, drumming cage cause me to lapse and keep my ass at bay. And for all the self-blame, the gaslighting, for counterfeit pregnancy, each implication filling me with rocks and pockets, weighted anchor albatrossing these losses pushed from head as the waterbed envelops me, icy hands of sea gripping uncomfortably above the knee, flapping wings only to find I no longer possess such appendages, selling flight in lieu of flesh, when gills would have worked best, this surface world a fucking mess, even learning at this adolescent age that for a man, being submissive makes you beta cuck, a wimp, in the words of Reddit, a simp. But this submission came involuntary, dissociating just as I did back when I was 8. And the mere thought of being held underwater comes like suffocation and touch, caress. I hold my breath. 180 days after my 17th birthday, I will never forget. The same girl I trusted to give my virginity took far more plunging to depth. I drowned my shame in a handle of Bacardi 151 until I felt smothered by the bird I'd become. Wings for lungs, and every stride a feather-drenched body asphyxiated before it came of age, 180 days, because my genus can only hold breath in 30-second increments. Held under thumb, under her weight, submerge my face into the break, 3 minutes. I know because I counted every single second, all 180 of them, watching legs flail from depth, and time again you resurface and recognize your surroundings. You cannot gather enough sense to call for help, because to a bird who has never drowned, you assume this is what swimming is. Being ripped from sky, clinging to life savers just out of reach, fighting back fleets, salt in lungs, and water everywhere, but not a drop of it wholly, and somehow still I rode the tide and bobbed my way back to that church's steps, dragged myself out of seabed, flippers pushed against tile floor, Escher-esque, every step soaked in unholy baptism, vice principal muttering as his grip envelops my hand, you really put the fear of God in us, you wouldn't make it here. And I smirked and said, yeah, me too. Knowing he knew nothing of my fight just to get dressed that day and wade through all this waterlogged, flippered feet dragging just to reach this world of breath, I took those steps because some infinitesimal part of me wanted to be amongst the living long enough to ensure this becomes just a story I can tell someday when I am ready, which is today. Some 4,500 days after, when my truth stands more testament to ascendancy than cautionary tale of how an albatross can become a boy who becomes a man, unafraid to stand and say, yeah, I survived. I am a survivor. Now can I graduate to whatever step comes next.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dale.
Wow.
Okay,
yes.
poet.
Ugh.
Okay,
Amazing.
poet.
Wrongly,
Oh,
wrongly
You're a
fantastic.
survivor. You are a survivor. Thank
So
you.
much love to you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
surviving.
Dale.
next time I see you, I'm giving you a hug. Like a big ass hug. like straight up. I got you.
Yeah.
Deep breaths.
Yeah. So that's my story in a nutshell. I'm going to pass it on next. We have the powerhouse creator of this whole event. She is phenomenal. That's all I could really say. I want her to give herself an introduction. She inspired me to tell my story. Honest to God. Like I had written stuff, but hadn't performed it, hadn't thought of putting it in my book. And meeting Destiny, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was inspired by her bravery. So welcome Destiny Rogers to the stage, aka Melanin the Poet. You here with us, Dest? She might be having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome. How are we feeling? Destiny.
Sorry, give me a second. My AirPods fell
It's
out my
okay.
ear.
Yeah, AirPods are crucial. Got to do sound check. Yeah, REH is in the house repping RA Destiny. The floor is yours, poet. Whenever you're ready, give us the power. If not, I could continue to rant and ramble. I got that covered.
So I have 3 pieces, but they're all short. So, and the first one is really so get ready. Okay, so this poem is called titled Karma. Drunk night, scratch that, not drunk, wasted. I remember because of how good that Henny tasted. You texted me when I got to the club. The whole time I knew you was a dub. So here I am, drunk, having a blast, hoping this night will last forever. Finally, I leave the club, barely walking. You hit me up telling me to come over. We're just gonna do a little talking. I replied, no, I'm drunk. You proceed to call me a punk. Come out, I just wanna hug you. We won't do anything you don't want to. Okay, but please, I'm drunk, no sex. Little did I know that's exactly what happened next. You took me to your room as I was preparing to face my doom. I stared at you and couldn't remember your name. I was so scared. I only had myself to blame. I hope to God that it was a dream. All of this was a part of your little scheme. Honestly, I wish I would have killed him. I'm so tired of being a victim. And that's the first one. Okay. And the second one is titled Nightmares. I was in a place I've never been before. Before I could remember what happened to my clothes. My clothes were laying on the floor. The floor was covered in blood. Blood was running down my face. My face was swollen and I felt sore. Soreness all over my body who had been touched while I was drunk. I was too drunk to give my consent. My consent is everything. Everything is what I can't remember. Remember to check on your friends. Your friends should never be left alone. Alone is what I feel. I feel like my world is spinning like a ride that won't stop. Touching me is what I said. Stop touching me. Stop touching me. Stop. And that was Nightmares. Sorry, I'm tearing up a little bit. I want my eyelashes fall off.
Don't need to apologize.
Okay, and this last one is titled I Remember. I remember crying after we had sex. Not because you did anything wrong, not because I was in pain, but all I could feel was his hands on my body. I remember feeling so worthless because the flashbacks wouldn't stop. I want to go home. I want to go home. His devious smile still invades my thoughts. I thought I'd never be the same. I remembered you'd ask me what's wrong. I bet you thought I was so strange, but I wasn't ready to tell you my fears, even though it was embedded in my brain. I remember telling you that it was nothing. that I was simply having a bad day, but in reality, I was broken. I'm sorry that you had to witness it. I remember making a bunch of excuses, telling myself that I was to blame, telling myself to get the fuck over it, telling myself that I should have stayed the fuck home. I remember believing that I'll never be good enough, that nobody will ever want to deal with my demons, that maybe my scars are just too deep to heal. Who would put together a puzzle that's missing pieces? I remember getting in the shower that night, trying to wash off your touch, your feel, muffling my cries so nobody could hear, praying to God to forgive me, for I have sinned. I remember that night like it was yesterday. I want to forget it. I hope I forget it. Lord, please just let me forget it. And that was my last piece. Um, oh, my makeup. But I wrote all these pieces just based off of like what has happened to me in the past. Like I've been a rape survivor since I was 13, and it happened 3 more times when I was 18. And I really just wanted to become an advocate for not only like my siblings, like every woman and man in this world. And I'm glad like I have a platform at Bloomfield that I could like share my story and share it to others. Because I don't ever want that to happen to anyone else. And I'm actually working with the school now to like put in like more policies, like more security, more safety for students, because that happening to you, especially like when you're off at college, is really scary. And it happens, but like it's nothing to avoid. But just educating people on it better just would make me feel better, I guess, in a way. But yeah, those are my 3 pieces. Thank you.
We love you, Destiny. Where can people follow you on IG? I want to keep hype. I'm gonna keep hyping you up, but just tell everybody where they can follow.
Oh yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Melanin the Poet. That's where I post all my poetry, and there will be a lot soon.
I'm gonna post the program again in the chat in just a second. But Destiny also had her poem published in last year's literary magazine called 10 Dumbass Questions to Ask a Rape Survivor. So she been doing this, and that piece is fire. I was half expecting you to read that because that piece has all kinds of.
I couldn't find it.
Oh no, I could email it to you. You let me know. You want to run that poem back before the end of the night? I'll email it to you. I got copies.
Okay, that's fine.
I got receipts. Yeah, Destiny is such a strong advocate on campus. We have students who speak their voice. I mean, the next poet coming to the stage also has published pieces in our literary magazine, speaking on their experience, their violation. Before we move on to that, can we give a round of applause to Destiny? She didn't get her roses. She didn't get a round of applause.
Amazing.
You did great.
So strong. And like I said, this whole thing, Destiny was the catalyst. She's the reason this event is happening. We have all kinds of initiatives on campus happening as well. Between orientation, resident life, everybody in the administration has been so supportive and so phenomenal. I'm working with the coordinator of the first year seminar to implement that into their curriculum in the classes, lessons on consent and sexual assault. But yeah, I mean, just like, that's our students, y'all. Our students are the best. They are just phenomenal, and you're about to hear another one of them. So I met May. What, you've been my student for what, like 2.5, 3 years, right? Yeah, Maydoli is just, y'all are gonna see. She has that imagery. She has that power to all of her work. She also has been published numerous times in our literary magazine. And she Destiny's a senior. May, you're a senior too, right? Yeah. Y'all can't leave me. Don't leave. We need y'all to keep just repping. All right. So this is Maydoli Garcia. She's gonna read a few of her own pieces and then another piece. So May, take it away.
Hi everyone. My name is Maydoli Garcia, but I prefer to be called May. I'm going to be reading 2 poems today. One is my recent poem that I just made, and the other one is, I think, maybe the 3rd or 4th poem I ever wrote in Paul's class, and it was supposed to be a rant poem. So this poem is called Doe Eyes, and the inspiration for that is that I work with infants, and one day I was taking them out for a walk, and some guy decided to say, hey, will you be my nanny? Can you push me around? In front of my own children. And my first thought was to look at my children and make sure that they were okay. and I looked in their eyes and I was like, 20 years from now, are they gonna have to experience the same thing? So I went home and I wrote this poem, so I hope you like it. Doe eyes. My Bambis are enjoying the fresh air, the air that runs through their soft hair. Their innocence runs wild in their large doe eyes. The land is large and ready to be explored, bushy green trees and different sights to see. I tell them every life is meant for greatness, but beware the ones that blaze bright. The Bambis run through, meeting all new lives, but they have forgotten my one small warning sign. They hear a crack here and there, and the blunt blade of a hacksaw. The new life before their very eyes sets the fire alight. The once bushy green trees turn frail and sick, and the new sights are filled with blackened soot. The fire dances across their doe eyes. It eyes them, taunting them as it gets closer and closer. Baby Bambis yell, please stop, please stop. But the fire keeps on coming, keeps on creeping. I knew the fire would one day return to punish the doe eyes I created for my burning lies. But I will not let the same fate take them away. I stand tall, the fired up shield. Consuming me, I look at my doe-eyed Bambis with pain and love. I show them to never let the fire grow, because the fire is only as big as the fuel it is given by those who started. In this moment, their innocence was left in the wild, the fire inside those big doe eyes. So that's my first poem. The second one is called Not Our Fault. 5 years old, red and white checkered dress and pigtails. That is who I was. A little girl who cared about Dora the Explorer and candy. I was very loving to everyone around me. I was used to the love surrounding me. I didn't know that my uncle putting his penis in me wasn't love. 12 years old, developing much more quicker. My body is much more curvy. Doesn't matter about my body. I'm still a kid. Being felt up in places that have not yet been explored. Catcalled, hola mami. Ese cuerpo tan bello, las cosas que te puedo hacer. 15 years old to 18 years old. I did not know that being coerced into doing things was not consent. Pa worried that rape will occur when I go to college, being told that I'm a bitch for saying no, yet I don't think you understand the word no. Yet again, according to Delta Kappa Epsilon, no means yes, yes means anal. Wait a minute, that's the same fraternity that Brett Kavanaugh was in, someone who has the possibility of being in the Supreme Court, a rapist in the Supreme Court. Brock Turner, who brutally raped a girl, 3 months in jail for good behavior. Jameis Weinstein, from the Buccaneers, better known as a rapist and sexual assaulter. Let's not forget Ben Roethlisberger from the Steelers, a rapist yet settled it with money. As if money eases the woman's pain and trauma. I don't see none of y'all football fans in outrage when they rape people, yet throw a huge tantrum when someone kneels for racial injustice. What were you wearing last night? Were you intoxicated? Did you lead him on? As if that fucking matters. Let me tell you when it's a woman's fault, when she is the rapist. No debate here. If you can't get pussy without forcing yourself on her, you're pathetic. Why didn't you report it earlier? Why didn't you say anything? Christine Blasey Ford since child. Received death threats, moved out of her house, hired private security. We do it for attention? To ruin men's lives? Tell me how someone would want death threats in return for attention. No one cares. Brown University, University of Connecticut, Dartmouth College, Harvard, Stanford, Phi Psi, Delta Kappa Epsilon, Ben Roethlisberger, Jameis Weinstein, James Franco, Louis C.K., Steven Seagal, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, George H.W. Bush, Al Franken, Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump, and more. Out of every 1,000 rapes, 994 perpetrators walk free. Thank you. And then,
Hold on. Yeah.
oh, sorry. Oh, do I just continue?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay. So I decided to help a very beautiful poet kind of express what they went through. And I feel grateful and honored to be reading this for her because I know that when I wrote my first poems, I was scared. And I remember reading it in the classroom and it was the silence that came after was one of the scariest things for me. So I applaud her for writing this because it's not something easy to write. So I'm just going to be reading kind of what inspired her to write this poem. So she's 20 years old. She's the first daughter of 2 immigrants from Guatemala, but she was born here. So her parents separated, and her biological father left to another state and didn't really care about her. Her mom did everything in her power to survive and make sure she was in good hands. But she didn't know anyone except her family, so she left them with them. But it came to a point when none of them could do it, so she asked her uncle to take care of her. And it was normal at first, but then he ended up raping her. So this poem is her experience on what happened. The words of the survivor. Would you still love me if I told you my story? Would you be there when I need a shoulder to cry on? My secrets have buried me 6 feet deep, under, before I even got the chance to breathe. You see me, but you really don't see me. Not even an ounce of me. You know of me, but you really don't know me. I was left broken and scared of the world by a person who you call family. You! You did this to me. You broke me. You made me scared of letting anyone touch me. How could you? Have you ever asked me if this was what I wanted? Do you regret what you did to me? I bet you don't. Not even an ounce. Get therapy, they say. How? Please tell me, when I was raped by a loved one, when I was 5 years old, and I kept it a secret from the world for 8 years, threatened at the age of 5 to keep my mouth shut. By what, you might ask? Well, that's for me to know and bury 6 feet under, along with my innocence. All you will ever know about me is the little girl you took advantage of. But I am not her. I refuse to be her. I am a survivor. There is nothing you could do to me to change that. I survived and crawled from the place where I was supposed to lay, and that upsets you. But to be honest, I don't give 2 fucks. What happened to you after is what you deserve, because what comes around goes around. Haven't you heard? Karma is a bitch. Thank you.
Oh my God. I don't give 2 fucks.
Karma is a bitch. That line right there. I love that. That whole piece. Just both of them are freaking amazing. All of them were actually.
That was incredible.
May, thank you for sharing your work, man.
Shout out to the person that wrote that. You know what I'm saying?
So much love. I mean, like, that's the thing is we should never tell people when to tell their story, how to tell their story. Sometimes it comes through, you know, a proxy, a conduit. Sometimes that's how we just need to tell our story until we're fully ready. And I appreciate the bravery of both those brilliant poets. May, that was in my class, what, 2.5 years ago that she first wrote Not Our Fault. And I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, will you please submit this to the Lit Mag? And she was like, oh yeah, I don't give a fuck. She was just straight up like, oh yeah, sure. Totally. So I mean, just so much power to you. She's been telling her story ever since I've known her. Just a survivor and also an ally. And I love y'all. Whew, okay, so coming up next is another piece of the Nuyo fam. We're gonna welcome next to the stage somebody who, whenever I hear their work on this, and she's a fire poet, you know, hence the hair. So she's about to set the stage on fire. Whenever I hear her write about this, it hits different, you know, like she's a great poet all the time, like 25/8, but it's just something about when Rosalynn Diaz, aka Through Her Big Brown Eyes. The floor is yours, Roz.
So I intend to share 2 pieces. The first one is how I viewed my experience when I was younger, and then the second one is what I feel, you know, after my journey and healing and everything that comes with the acceptance of, you know, our stories. So the first one is monsters. We teach our children that monsters aren't real, a lie from which we wish they'll never have to heal. Monsters aren't real, you say? Then explain why I'm praying to God never to be left alone, constantly watching over my shoulder, practically best friends with my phone in agony, begging for company, wanting to be set free, hating to be me. God, if you're out there, What have I done to deserve this nightmare? Outcries for you are constant. I have questions and burdens I cannot bear. Were my shorts too short? Shirt too tight? A little less lip gloss, maybe? Is it my fault that my breasts have been growing lately? Say Candyman 3 times in front of a mirror and you'll be sorry. I never did that, and yet every time I look, I can't face what I see. Embarrassed, hurt, scared, because the monster haunts me. Today, I'll wear sweatpants and a shirt 2 times my size. I won't comb my hair. Maybe then his bulge will not rise. Monsters are fictitious, you say. So why does one lurk among the shadows, looking at me that way, stripping me of every ounce of dignity, wondering if I'll ever be okay? I'm consumed by angry thoughts and ungodly feelings, eyes bloodshot red, stinking, just staring at the ceiling, plotting how to get rid of the monster that the world says is a figment of my imagination. Reflected in anger, tears, and frustration, stuck in a trance looking for answers, wanting to see the world through a different lens. But I'm always on the fence because I know the truth. The monster ripped my childhood and youth. I want to erase the memories and start fresh, healed and happy, away from all this mess. Just when I think I've made some progress, it sneaks up on me again that monsters are real. That's my first piece, and that's how I felt from the age of 9 to like 17. My next piece is called 1 to 10, Giving the Power to the Lotus Flower. 1. On the days that you feel more victim than survivor, remind yourself that it happened to you, but it does not define you. 2. You will be triggered. Sometimes you'll feel it coming in the form of a knot in your throat, and others it will manifest in the form of jittery hands and the need to breathe obnoxiously. 3. You will notice that you have superpowers. You are to travel in time, back to the moment, riddled with pain and sometimes shame. Customize your cape to show them all what you've reclaimed. 4. They will tell you that there's medication, damage control, that 1 pill a day will keep the nightmares away. 1 pill a day will keep the nightmares and cold sweats away. And that the only warning you get is that you won't be able to operate heavy machinery. 5. If you're ballsy enough, you'll tell the guy with the prescription pad that trauma is heavy machinery and hope that he has a good sense of humor, that your wit won't warrant a higher dose of medication with too many syllables to care. 6. Some days you'll explore your sexual desires unapologetically, and others you'll wonder if maybe that was the reason it happened to you in the first place. 7. You'll remember that number 6 can't be true because when it started, you were only 9. 8. Some days you will feel their grip on your skin or their words replay again in your mind, and you'll have to work twice as hard to be fine. And the hurt will be the only reminder that you're still breathing. Thank God that you're still breathing, even if anger is the driving force. Grow through every single obstacle, trigger, and bad memory. Fucking grow, because lotus flowers only bloom in the mud, my dear. 9. You're stronger than many because you still look at your predator in the face till this day and feel sorry that karma has put them in their place. 10. You're more than okay because you pray for yourself, for those who can relate, and for the very hands that nearly deflowered you. That is your power. You are a survivor. End poem.
Just
Wow.
That was amazing.
Oh,
Thank you
Roz.
guys.
just
Oh,
Powerful. Both of them were powerful.
Beautiful.
I don't know what to do after that, Roz.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Paul, for the platform. These type of pieces are the hardest to perform, the hardest not to, you know,
but the most
take
necessary.
you back to that place. But it's worth it. It's worth it.
I love you, sis. Thank you for your strength.
Love you too.
For bringing this. You know, I felt how emotional you were the whole reading. You know? But we need that. We need that. We need you to let people know we're still doing this light work and this shadow work. We're still working out all of these.
It's an everyday thing.
The hurt will be the reminder you're still breathing. Just so many amazing pieces of writing, but the fact that you are here delivering it, it's a testimony, you know.
Thank you.
And that denim jacket too.
Thanks.
Yeah, so you can follow her at Through Her Big Brown Eyes on Instagram, right, Roz?
Yep, I'll put it in the chat.
Awesome. And you know, Roz, like honestly, Roz, I was slipping because I didn't invite Roz until a few days ago. I had a list set up, and then I was like, wait, Roz hit me up, and I was like, oh no, wait, you have to be part of this showcase. And so I am glad above and beyond all things that we got to have her powerful voice as part of this night. So once again, thank you, Roz.
Thank you.
All right, so coming up next to the stage, we're just gonna keep it going with powerful ass poets. Next up, this poet Jani Rose. Oh man, yeah, you pointing. Of course it's you. There is no other Jani Rose. So I got to work at almost a month ago at a workshop at the Nuyo with her, and then we were talking, and then she said something about survivorship, and I was like, wait, hold up. And then we just bonded over trauma. So this is Jani Rose, and she is an amazing Nuyorican poet. And I'm gonna let her just explain herself because she is.
Hi, thank you, Paul. All of you are so beautiful and so powerful, and I just want to take a moment to just breathe that in, all that survival, all that living, right? We are living because we've taken it past surviving into holding on to one another and taking our trauma and making something of it that could support and build bridges and save lives. And so now we're living. And blessings to all of you for being here and sharing. And thank you for inviting me, Paul, to be here. And thank you to my loved ones who are with us. Amanda, rock that rad, baby girl. So I wrote this today for you. And it's a poem that I just never really knew how to write. And somehow when the pressure cooker's on, and you know you got to pull that like 10-page paper right before it's this was one of those. And it felt great. It felt amazing. So in this, preparing for this, it provided healing and catharsis. And so here we are. Mommy always asked me what I did to make them think I wanted them. I was one the first time I told her Theo had touched me. I was very verbal and spoke in full sentences, she recalls proudly. I was 7 the first time I had a boyfriend. With bright blue eyes, pale milk skin, and jet black hair, he was 13 and looked like menudo. I was 9 the first time I was called a slut. The boy I loved most said it often, in front of people, so that they wouldn't know that he liked me too. I was 11 when Patrick's mother called me a puta at prep for prep. Mommy said, if people keep calling me that, there must be a reason. Joey Almonte looked like what Snow White would have looked like if she were a boy. His thick, glossy black hair was raven wings, his eyes the color of the sky reflecting off of the ocean. His skin was fresh cream, his cheeks a pair of bright apples, his pout fresh, rosy pillows. Sometimes he let me use his crayons to color at the dining room table. I had to be careful not to break them, and only when he was especially pleased with me was I allowed to use the burnt sienna. Shaking, I would tear a page from my black and white composition notebook to rub my pencil across the tablecloth covered in plastic, a thick, intricate lace mantel that reminded me of weddings. He told me someday maybe we would get married and live happily ever after. I could be like Cinderella. I could be his princess. Jose looked like Menudo. On his mother's television, between two plastic-covered roasted squash armchairs, they wriggled and writhed in jewel-toned lame leggings. They gyrated and thrusted their pubescent pelvises, beseeching me to hop up on their moto. He looked like Menudo, who filled my walls. Charlie, Miguel, Ray, Roy, Javier, Ricky, Jani, Puerto Rican boys who had somehow managed to become famous enough to end up in the magazines that I received in the mail every month. Tiger Beat, Super Teen, Big Bopper, Bop. I looked up Bop. It said female who performs oral sex and gives head. She's a bop. I looked up the definition of bopper. It says someone who tries to talk to a bunch of people, term for a hoe. He was a teen heartthrob. He was Big Bop come to life. Better than all the posters on my wall. Better than the grainy boys prancing about the stage like monkeys on strings, writhing in the fluorescent flashes while my innocence spilled bloody across the floor under his sister's canopy beds. He'd stuff me under the mounds of lace and let me play with their Donnie and Marie dolls while he did whatever he was doing. Sometimes while we were playing hide and seek, they'd open the closet door, see us amongst the bed sheets and towels and close it, leaving him to continue his games. His mother would prepare Dominican jarabes for me because I couldn't breathe after we played too much. It was difficult to catch my breath. Face red and wheezing, I would sit at the dining room table waiting for my mother, stomach full of him, onions, lemon, and honey. When I finally told mommy, it was because he had kept trying to kiss me. His hot, wet mouth made me want to run across the room and jump out of the 4-story window. He tried putting a sheet over my face, waterboarding me with drooly, steaming kisses. I never saw him again until the day we passed each other on the street, an 18-year-old savage and an apologetic 25-year-old. I laughed at him and told him it was okay, that I was okay, flashing a man-eating grin. Years later, I told her everything. Blaming her, I spat out that I have experienced things that made me something that she could not possibly understand. She said that she would never have allowed anything like that to happen to her. That they knew better than to touch her. That the one time El Mudo tried to touch her, she signed that she would cut it off. She reminded me that I am nothing like her. Horrified, mommy asked why it took me so long to tell her. I said, I don't know. She said she knows why. She said I must have liked it, or I would have told her sooner.
God.
Girls like me don't write poems. We scribble legacy across city walls, rock back and forth to the beat of the shake of the spray cans wielded by baseball cap, wife beater, pañuelo masked bandidos, stealing ass and boring into mouths because teenage virgin and to be the first is commitment. So we pick up the rat tat tat blazing DSL matte red beauty supply sonnets across their chest by chest by chest chest. across their bodies that belong to no one and anyone, like their stories, because the hood got stories. Girls like me don't write poems. They taught me to write death threats with my eyes that gave them hope like ecstasy tabs. Falling into Allison Parkchester, swimming into sweet spot distraction. When G Smooth crowns you queen in secret shadows and holds your hand down Leland, and she don't hold no one's hand. So you the main bitch in this land, responding to the krylons of catcalls and the goddamn that ass when she passed. And then, yo mama, you got a man? And she replies, does it matter? Because pretty's a commodity and smart makes you the oddity. So they pushing gushy wet and they in deeper than they wanted to bet. So they pull out all hardcore and yeah, we like it raw. And that bitch is 2 days sore because she likes to write poems. But doesn't know any other way than to put tongue to paper. She wrote that spliff, so they call her little lady bamboo, and Abuelo called her little boo. And he don't know that his presence and her father's absence left chapters torn and mangled. So now she likes to be manhandled. And when they beg her, tell me that it's mine, she smirks cherry red and fingers bright lime, scratches poems into their back, knowing they'll be back. Because girls like her don't write poems. Sluts like her don't write poems. So she scrapes forever into their system. So when they see her, that girl they bent and broke at the knee, feel the crackle in their gut shook. They try to scroll past, but they stuck when 20 years later, wifey sees her and asks, who is she? And he'll say, a girl from the block. Finally recall how she used to ride the cock like a poem. He'll page through her books, confused and a little bit lost. He'll look, remember all the things she allowed, apologetic and more than a little proud. He'll honor the round the way girl who became a motherfucking poem.
Okay, y'all all have to give it up.
Let's go.
What the?
Jani.
Oh my god.
Yes,
Oh
Jani.
my god.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Where have you been all my life?
Now she's here. It doesn't matter. Now she's here. You're here. We're here. We this is official because like, okay, Jani, can you tell us where to follow you so we can all keep this?
I'll put it in the chat. It's at Johnny_Rose_poet. And that I'm on Clubhouse, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Johnny Rose. My Bronx Dole can die in peace. Amanda, I see you, sis. Waving Barbies, yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being here with me for that. That was different. Thank you.
Sis, the fact that you wrote that first piece, like just like 12th hour before the assignment is due, I just want to tell you, like, you're a living masterpiece. Like how?
Thank you.
No, so much love to you. Oh my God. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with myself. All right. So y'all, we are going to bring it now to our show closer, the powerhouse, the institution that is La Bruja. Y'all, I'm bringing up Brew. I don't really have words to describe how much this woman has impacted me just in the last year. Just my hermana, my friend, she's pulled me into circles that I didn't know I needed to be in, and I became a part of. The Nuyorican legend started in '96, right? And just haven't stopped ever since. So if they don't know you, they're about to know you. The floor is yours, sister. I love you.
Thank you. My God. Jani, that was crazy. Everybody, Joeski, everybody, Jodie, everybody, Jesus. The students, I had to smoke. It was just too fucking much. Because, these are deep, painful, to excavate these poems. What I'm going to share with you tonight, I mean, I haven't read these poems. I published it in 2010. These poems are in 2010, and this is where I was at back then. So I'm going to open up with the first one. This is called Matador or Matador, which is in Spanish means killer. And this is about domestic violence relationships that, that I had been in and had witnessed, and, like that that fight, you know? So here we go. Oh man. I was born wild, with strong, thick muscles stacked to stampede, bred with pedigree to chase dreams of conquest, defiance, victory, and alliance. Bully by nature, a force misunderstood, mistreated, and abused. Territorial and aware, too proud to show fear, tested by the masses and consumed by the hands that force feed for selfishness and greed. Thrown into arenas to be watched by ravenous eyes, loved and despised at the same time. The death dance you lure me into, with spectators abound, cheering the sight of our duel, hungry for blood, thirsty for the ghastly scene, and crying for the cruel ended tradition. How I reveled in my ambition to forge my way free, ready to destroy all that stood before me, while you, matador, adorned from head to toe, with a snarling smile like the crescent moon, posture of a crane. You have a tongue for a sword, hidden gracefully behind the red cape of your lips, luring me with the seaward sway of your hips. Who would I convince to not challenge me this way if not you, matador? After inviting me to come, you challenge me to run, tease me to chase, trick me to die. We rhythmically gamble eye to eye. I can almost taste your desire to pound my hide. You knew that in the face of this, I would thrust forward powerfully, horns first, ready to gore your taunting stance, willing to take on each painful lance. How graceful you are with your bolero-covered chest, your gold-buttoned breast, the beautiful killer of my natural whim. How swiftly you glide with silken stockings over your shins. Lucky are you to win, but maybe today the dance will end, and the tip of my horn will wear you thin. So that was Matador. Now this next poem is called She. Saul Williams had a poem called She, and I remember buying it. It was on this little, it was like a little pamphlet. And I remembered reading it and thinking if I had to write a she poem, what it would be. And this is what came out. It took me a long time to even write this poem. And this is, I feel like a PG-13 version of what actually happened, but it was all that I could get out. So. She didn't expect to feel so good after looking in the mirror that night. She tried to get permission from her parents without a fight. She almost didn't recognize herself or her maturity. She wanted to see Al, who had asked her out forwardly. She met him at her uncle's house about 2 months ago. She liked his moves as she watched him dancing on the floor. She got a call last week from him telling her he'd pick her up. She liked his voice, remembered his looks, and was like, yeah, what's up? She imagined a house full of young faces blasting music and dancing. She felt like there could be a start to some fun and romancing. She wore her new pinstripe jacket with a frilly mini skirt. She pulled her hair down to the side just to flirt. She felt important driving in his car. His house was out in Jersey. She got out, was greeted by noise, and was noticed by nobody. She sat there smiling, listening, and tried to make conversation. She noticed him drinking, smoking, and not in moderation. She felt ignored. After an hour, was bored. She wanted to call a cab as she walked towards the door. She remembered her coat, felt a lump in her throat. She went upstairs to retrieve it and maybe leave him a note. She was followed and was startled as he blocked the bedroom door. She was shocked when he told her she really wanted more. She thought she liked him, but didn't know him like that. She started to scream, hoped it was a dream, and kept pushing him back. She fought, she yelled, she lost, she fell. She left her body there and swore never to tell. She let some years pass, believing she was at fault. She let him get away with sexual assault. She found a journal one day and tried to write herself together. She realized she was strong and wouldn't stay quiet forever. She now lives her life so differently. She speaks out and can admit that she is really me. That's she. And this final poem that I'll leave you with is a poem about emotional abuse. And this is the relationship between my parents, and it's called The Shoemaker. My parents met dancing, so there's a lot there's a lot in this poem. And the shit is that, like, I released this book when my parents were still together. They're not together anymore, and I'm grateful for that. But and my dad was so narcissistic, he had no idea the poem was about him. But I love my dad. I mean, but I'm just keeping it funky. He ain't never gonna see this. The Shoemaker. You are a shoemaker of great skill, with an inherent ability to create a shoe so beautiful that one ignores the distortion of the toes, the blisters at the heel, the bunions of conformity. You did not know your father well, but became more skillful than he at placing these handmade shoes on the feet of whomever you wanted to see dance in them. Dance a dance that pleased you. Dance a dance that made the feet bleed and crack and cry, but no one would notice the pain because the shoes were already ruby red and crimson, camouflaging perfectly the pain and injury. But oh, how beautiful the shoes you've made still look. Never mind the flesh beneath the shell, bending its once strong form, turning them to bloody, spineless clams. Dance? I cannot dance. I cannot wear these red shoes that my mother wore. I cannot pretend they fit me well and that you've made them to bring me comfort. They are suited for your design of beauty, and find me ugly you may, but my feet will run wildly through streams of freedom and forests of happiness, cut and bruise over sharp rocks of the world. They will find time to heal and disinfect with the salts of the sea, where shoes have no place to be. Pulled off by the quicksand of time, these feet are mine, never to be bound. Though you may hound, howl, and scowl at my nonconformity, I have seen the feet that carried me and wish not to bleed internally while dancing for the world to see, believing I live happily while crying and soaking my wounds, wishing one day to lose the abusive shoes that have stopped me from truly dancing. Shoemaker, you knew the pain of your mother when your father tried to hold those shoes on her like a vice. Why did you not think twice of the pain you would inflict upon your wife, forcing those shoes onto her life after knowing that for your mother those shoes would not suffice? You loved those shoes more than her joy. And now, as she tugs and rips at them, you cry like the little boy you were, feeling the hurt of abandonment after birth. You knew your father was a shoemaker. You saw the dance he forced your mother to dance. You felt the sadness as a child. Is that why your spirit went wild with vengeance to do what he could not and create too the shoes that would rot the feet of the woman who gave you her heart? Wasn't it in your nature to stop the painful cycle? I guess not, because the crafting of such shoes takes thought, and instead of soft leathers, you chose iron, wrought like a trap for her foot, and now she gnaws at her ankle like a wolf, and I howl at the moon, hoping soon she will run wildly like me, beside me, three-legged but brave, no longer be a shoe-wearing slave, dancing to the tune a shoemaker made.
Yes, Bruja.
Dale, Bru!
Oh my God.
Incredible.
Yes.
At her ankle like a wolf.
Amazing.
Holy shit.
I
Leave
have
it on the stage, baby. Leave it all on the stage.
I mean, bro, it doesn't need to be said much, but I mean, like, where can folks follow you if they want to find you on the gram or otherwise?
La Bruja NYC on IG, Twitter, and my little TikTok. That's I'm humbly putting little TikTok videos on there because I do like to dance, despite all the dance and related with, you know, because it is very much enmeshed in my life and my family. That is real true shit. And the red shoe shit came from like Dorothy and the red shoes and like the folklore of that, because I had read Women Who Run with the Wolves, and that came from after that, you know.
I could see it. I could honestly see it, knowing your mom and her background in dancing, and the feet get so calloused and bruised and beat up, and that's the perfect metaphor for an abusive relationship for a dancer. You know, it's just,
it was like literal, and you know, it was both. Shit was fucking crazy, but
Yeah.
for this platform to share it, because I would never, you know, I wouldn't. Yeah, I would never resurrect these poems. I wouldn't have thought of doing that until you called on me. So thank you.
Thank you for being a part of it. Anytime you've summoned me, I've been like, where you need me, when you need me, let's go. So I'm glad it's
all of you. And you know, this is part of the healing, and you know, so pa'lante, mi gente.
That was the perfect way to close the night. For performances. We're going to hang around for a little bit to do a roundtable for those willing. So if y'all have questions, I would say throw them in the chat. You can DM them to me. If you have questions for specific poets, let me know. I am going to start spotlighting poets who let me know they're willing for the roundtable. So I'm going to start pinning them. And y'all let me know. And if not, we could just chop it up. I mean, we don't have to have questions. There's no pressure. And just thank you all. Thank you everybody who came out tonight. Thank you everybody in the audience who has been giving us your energy with the finger snaps and the Barbie claps and everything. Y'all just been such a wonderful audience. And I know that this is not easy subject matter, y'all, right? But it's also necessary to have these conversations so that the cycle doesn't remain consistent, that the cycle can be broken, right? So that's the reason that, you know, Destiny and I put this night together, is because we are not okay being complicit, being silent, just being silent, you know, in the face of these issues. And our survivorship, we wanted to stand for something. So yeah, everybody who has been part of the showcase, if you don't want to answer questions, there's no pressure on anybody. So Amanda has a question. I'll wait on that because I'm getting other questions in the chat. Amanda, be brave, be bold, you got this. Okay, Matthew Marroquin, Maddie's in the audience. Just such a dope poet. He's coming out with his collection of poetry this summer. So I'm gonna ask Maddie to drop his socials so people from my world can follow him. So Matthew Marroquin, how do you all write about trauma? Like, what is y'all's process? Oof, that's gonna open up the gates. All right, so whoever wants to can unmute and speak on it.
I can speak on that because I usually write about trauma. You kind of have to take a day. Like that's what I do. Like usually it's on a Saturday or a Sunday when you can take a day and you can self-care before, after, and during, but also like as it comes to you, because the way that trauma works is very much like a PTSD kind of a reaction. Like sometimes you just are in it. It kind of is a coping mechanism to take that while you're in it and make it into art instead of just falling apart. That rhymed. That was sad. Oh my God. But so basically just like take advantage of your own trauma and turn it into something beautiful, and make sure you give yourself the space to fall apart if you need to, and then revisit it later. Like edit it way later. Don't worry about editing it when you're making it. make it, get all of that out, edit it later.
Cut it out. Jani, did you want to take it from there?
Yeah, just jumping off of what Tori just says, for sure. I mean, just get it out. You know, a lot of people talk about writer's block, and I always say there's really no such thing as writer's block. There's just the uncomfortable feeling that you don't like what you're writing. But we always have the ability to write, right? Unless our hands are completely like wrapped, we are able to get something down. And sometimes just that popcorn brainstorm, throwing down words, and it almost like scat, you know, just throw it down and then come back to it later, you know, do it until you find the poem. And just it's actually such a freeing, releasing way to do it, because then you're writing from your subconscious. You're not writing what you think people want to hear or what you think sounds good. You're writing what you really want to write from inside. So sometimes writer's block is actually a blessing. It's your you know, it's getting the polish off so that you can get into the guts of the matter and write the real poem. And then you go back later, you pull out some gems, and you can always return to those things that just rise from the subconscious naturally. You had mentioned, Harry asked the question that I did.
Yeah, I was getting to that next.
I have a question for all the performers. How do you feel when performing such intimate pieces? The blessing is that I feel like we are all here in this. I think when you show up to something like this, you come with such a giving heart. And you're grateful that you know that other people are also coming with like an open heart, and so it feels grateful. I'm so grateful. It feels safe, and it does feel like a healing process. Like you don't know what's gonna happen, and it's a little scary because you don't know what's gonna happen, right? We don't know if you're gonna break down or somebody else is gonna break down, and we're gonna have, you know, what kind of care will we have to do for each other? But knowing that everybody shows up willing to take care of each other is beautiful. And it's what, you know, it's the reason why poetry is so important. It's not the poems, it's the people, it's us, you know, it's you that makes it so beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the ability to do it, I don't really know. So the first time I ever performed anything on my survivorship, it was at my book launch, and that was a really weird place to do it because I was doing it around family who didn't know about these things. And so it was really a confessional poem moment. And I just had the most nervous energy I've ever had in my life for any poem I've ever read, because that was me, you know, that was me telling my, you know, it takes two to make a secret. Well, it took like 38 in the Zoom to break a secret. Yeah, so I'm gonna let Tori handle this question because she's ready.
So I have both an answer and an anecdote. The answer for like how I feel when I perform such intimate pieces, whether it be intimate pieces like erotic poetry that everyone has a fun time doing, or it be like trauma poetry like this, or social justice poetry, I feel very in control, especially over things that I often won't feel in control over, that I'm like the things I'm writing about, I didn't feel in control, but it's cathartic when I am performing it. And now everyone is listening to me. Everyone is seeing it through my experience only. And I'm just kind of being heard. And so I actually am addicted to this kind of stuff, even though it's very hard, because it's so cathartic. And then my anecdote, because Paul, you mentioned about like performing with your family there. That's been a huge thing for me, especially because like I mentioned, I do erotic poetry, and I have managed somehow to hide that from my conservative family for 7 years now. But yeah, but I remember the first time my mom heard anything even slightly controversial for me was actually the open mic where I did Night Skies that you heard. She was in on that, and the only line she picked out from that entire poem that she asked about, she's like, "Present our open mouths for a dick to fit into, Tori." And I'm like, this is why I don't tell you anything.
You're like, you didn't hear any of my pain or my story. You just heard open mouth dick.
So just do it. Your family's gonna hear what they want to, and it's not gonna be what you want them to. So just do it. But just have your own power in it.
Absolutely. We got to stand in it too. Jodie, did you want to cover that? I see you unmuted. You want to cover that question, or do you have another one?
What was the question again?
The question was, how do we handle performing such vulnerable pieces?
You know what? I have PTSD, and I have so much challenge with dissociation, doing everyday Monday things in life. But there is only one space or one place that I am 1000% present in my body. And that is when I am sharing my poetry. Like, I am all there. There's something like a light flicks on, and I don't really care what the outcome is from others, because it's for myself. And I always feel that whenever I'm sharing my poetry, even if I'm writing something down, I always feel like it's some kind of shame exorcism. Like another layer just removes itself from me. And that's why I'm writing, because I always think of it as like return the shame to sender. Like none of this belongs to me. So I just want to get it out there.
Shame exorcism. So can I steal shame exorcism in a poem at some point?
Go ahead.
Can I credit you? Is that okay? Because
sure. We can all do a collabo. And then the question about, I saw it in the chat, something about Roxanne Gay.
Yes, I'm getting to that question in just a sec. I wanted to give credit to Harry with that question. That was brilliant, my bro. There a year ago, we were at the Nuyo together on a class trip. So, Brew, you waving your hand. We're gonna get to Amanda's question right next. Brew, did you want to talk real quick? Yeah.
I wanted to say that, when I wrote the She poem, the Me Too movement had not happened. I was married. My father was still in the house. So that was like a clean version. Like it kept everyone, it protected the guilty. Let's put it that way, It was, but still it was my way of getting one layer out, because it took me even 15 years to even do that. So that was still a big deal, and I didn't come fully. That's not, the full poem. That still lives in me, the gritty one, the real shit, where it's like no holds barred, and I could say exactly what the fuck happened, And I mean, this we're empowered by these circles that we've created now, like now I feel I have more courage to even go there, and excavate that one. But if you have to do it in layers, do it in layers. Just do it, at least get it out, because it is painful to be that honest and that raw, and it hurts. And then even saying it out loud, like back when I started having the courage to share that poem in youth groups in high schools, that I would travel to different schools and jails and whatever. Like I even got mocked, I remember like one student was like, haha, you got raped, and the truth was that, yeah, that poem, I called it sexual assault, but it was rape, but I couldn't even say that, you have to be, prepared to be shamed, and still do it anyway, and do it in defiance of the shame.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And healing your parents' wounds also, because you're speaking up for your own mother also. So that's so much power in that. Roz wanted to speak on this piece. I think that'll be our last speaker, and then we're going to move on to the next question. Roz, please.
Yeah, so coming from, a Latino family, women are expected to just be strong, and all the shit just gets swept under the rug. This is cultural. We don't speak about this, everything is on the hush, and nobody needs to know. For me, performing is healing. For me, writing is the poetry keeps me going, because and this is against what my family and everybody that I know, they kind of frown upon me sharing such vulnerable pieces. But like Jodie said, it's not really for the people as much as it is for the writer. So you know, to this day, I have people in my family who refuse to go on my website and or won't, you know, attend the open mics because they are so afraid to identify as, you know, the protagonist or antagonist in my piece, then they just don't want to hear it, and they're like, I don't know why you're putting that out there, you know, you shouldn't even do that. And when it comes to parents, narcissism, all the stuff that, you know, it's close to home, it is just so hard, but you got to do it anyway because that's your power. You know.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, the fact that we create these spaces for each other, you know, I think that was a really beautiful thing that Bru touched on. And like, I wasn't ready or prepared to like read my pieces on this until I heard others at the Nuyo creating the space for me. You know, yeah. So the next question, a brilliant question. In her memoir, Hunger, Roxane Gay writes about calling herself a victim versus a survivor. I was wondering if anyone had any thoughts on this. That's from Amanda. So does anyone want to, you could raise your hand, let me know. I'll unmute you. I'll ask everybody to unmute, only those who want to talk on it. I think that's a really deep question. Destiny, I see.
Oh, go ahead. What was it?
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't have anything against it, but I refer to myself as a victim. I feel like I do. I'm kind of blaming myself, so I always refer to myself as a survivor because I feel like when I was in each of those moments, I was trying to survive. When I think about it, I feel like I'm choking. I'm trying to survive. So I think of it like as a for everything I've been through. So that's why I'd rather call myself a survivor than a victim because I feel like it gives them more power. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Tori, I think you and Jani, actually, I think you can go first and then we'll get to Tori.
I just wanted to make sure that Amanda got to explain what she wanted to explain.
Yeah, let her spit her piece.
I don't feel comfortable taking up space because I'm not a performer. Wow, how can I? Okay, so basically, from what I remember her saying in this memoir, is that she was gang raped and she gained a bunch of weight to just set a barrier from something like that happening again. And she basically writes about how that trauma, like she will take that with her to her grave. It will be the worst thing that happened to her. And because of that, she is a victim and not a survivor. And I can go on a tangent about that, but I just wanted to add more context before you guys answer. Just like, do you guys believe that there is a certain level of trauma that you do not come back from, that you are just in victim mode for the rest of your life? Like, yeah, things like that.
So thank you for elaborating. I think that was.
And I have like that 2 second actually to speak exactly to that because crazy enough, I'm glad you got to say that because I really wasn't going to speak on it, and that actually gave me the seed that I needed to be able to say, I don't know if I am fully healed from all of the things that have happened to me over and over and over and over again. Like I said, I was 1 the first time, I was 7 the second time, and my first poems were written at the age of 7. My first workshopped poems, I wrote at 7 years old. And it's so weird that like the biggest trauma happened at the same time as the first poems. But I don't know if I am healed. I don't know how much of what I do or don't do manifests because of things that aren't unearthed yet. So there are definitely, there's that duality of victim and survivor at the same time, right? Because that just, there was parenting mentioned, there was mom was mentioned, you know, our children were mentioned, how we were or were not protected was mentioned. And then who mothers us, how we mother ourselves, how we nurture ourselves, how we heal ourselves. How so much, there's so much that we just don't know. We're vast, we're the cosmos, you know, we're still exploring. And it's gonna, just like they don't know what's past that you know, past that galaxy. There's so much inside of us that we're just discovering day by day, and things that we realize all the time. And as we're doing the work, we learn things together, which is, you know, why community is so important, because a lot of times it is scary to be in trauma mode all the time. It's true. But we are also living during a time where we are constantly in trauma mode. We are always daily being traumatized, and we are not able to heal from what traumatized us yesterday. And today we got motherfucking traumatized again. So it's like right now, like how is this healing happening? But we're doing so well, right? we're trying. And so all we can do is to continue to try and try to love ourselves and each other. It's exhausting, fucking tired. But yeah, but this helps. Thank you, Paul, and everyone else. Please find me so that we can continue to, you know, just inspire each other.
Tori.
So I'm gonna be an English major nerd right now because I don't know how else to explain this, but I spent like my whole academic career like analyzing and criticizing things like the Madonna horror complex, the like Angel in the House, Mad Woman in the Attic, like basically a lot of binary kind of ideas that you find in literature, especially assigned to women. And I think that like the survivor victim is kind of like that for me, because for me, I see myself as a survivor. I'm like, I got through that. I have, you know, worked through all this trauma, but also like I was a victim. And I am allowed to be upset that that happened to me. And it's not just that I have to be strong. So like, I think that like the thing about victim versus survivor isn't unfair because you can be both. And I think it's actually great to acknowledge both parts, because even if you survive something, like it's okay to still be like, that was unfair. Why did that happen to me? That shouldn't have happened to me. Because it shouldn't have. And it's okay to have both. You can have both. It doesn't have to be one versus the other. But that's kind of like, I just see a very binary view of that in that question. Not from your question, but from like the concept. So that's me.
Yeah, speaking on, if anybody else wants to talk, they can just let me know who was raising who. Jodie, go ahead.
Again, I forgot the question. Oh, the victim versus survivor?
Versus survivor, yeah.
Sometimes I feel that folks, especially those that have the power to enact change within rape culture, focus on the wrong thing. It doesn't matter what we think of ourselves. It matters that we have these labels in the first place, right? I, full disclosure, hate writing a bio whenever I'm been asked to speak. And people say, talk about this, talk about that. I'm like, I just wanna get right to the message. Can we do that? Right. I don't wanna, you know, skirt around or anything. But the abuse is abuse, whether it's from the perpetrator or by proxy. So even after we have long survived these impacts of trauma, we are re-victimized by a justice system, the medical system, all these systems that are designed to keep us from our full liberated selves. So doesn't that mean that we are still being victims? And I really love this discussion because each survivor has their own experience, right? And I love how it's on us on how we want to heal, how loud we want to heal, how quiet we want to be some days. It's not on anyone's agenda. And I feel that sharing my poetry or doing my work publicly is a very great eliminator of people you don't need in your life. Because the closest people to me have never said, could you please stop talking about that? Or again? or anything. They won't hold you back, right? And I think in terms of the word healed, like HEALED, I think I don't use that word because it's ongoing. I don't know. So for me, the abuse started a couple months before my 4th birthday. I can't remember myself at 2, at 3, at 1. So who am I? Like, I don't know that. I don't know who I was supposed to be. Right. So I think we're just doing our best to be the very best versions of ourselves. And no one has a say in how that should look and sound like. Right.
Absolutely. And I still remember, Jodie, the first time I think I ever like really heard you on the Nuyo was your Time's Up piece. And then I think you asked people to unmute like at random, right? You remember your Time's Up, and we were like, what time is it? Time's up, or something like that. And it was just like at random, like they were like, who wants to volunteer? And I was like, sure, I'll volunteer, not knowing what it was. And it wound up being a Time's Up poem. And I was like, oh, this is happenstance. But anyway, I wanted to answer the question. And then I'm going to pass it to, actually, I'll pass it to Brew first. Go ahead. Brew, let me unmute you.
Oh, I was agreeing with Jodie because when she was speaking, I was thinking that we're like, if we are a coin, you know, victim is one side, survivor is on the other, because we are perpetual victims of society, right? And so I totally agree with that. And then surviving is just, it's just like it's a cycle. And sometimes, like when we're triggered, that's when that coin ends up tail up, and I'm triggered and I'm a victim in that moment because I don't even have control of the feeling, you know. That's like, and when it's physical, it's in the body, it's fucked up. But yeah, so that was my thought.
Yeah, beautifully put. I mean, good image. My definition would be victims, I think, is the label a lot of others will slap on us or look at us and pity us, have sympathy versus empathy. And victim, to me, not to place value on these, I mean, labels are always valued, but victim to me means helpless, means, you know, it robs us of power. It places us in the position of still violated, more present tense or past tense, which I am not present or past tense. I am constantly working towards my future self. So I prefer survivor because there's activity to it, because it means that I'm still fighting. And I would prefer, like, I want another term. Like, survivor's too tied to, like, I don't know, Destiny's Child and shit. I want another term. I want something else. That's why in my poem I'm like, now can I graduate to whatever? I don't know. But I'm more than proud of survivor, because survivor, yeah, I think survivor properly articulates the fact that we are still, every day it's a fight, and we're still fighting it, right? I'm not slandering Destiny's Child. I love Destiny's Child.
That's cool.
So I don't, are we out of questions? Did anybody on the round table just want to spit some wisdom at us before we close out?
I love that somebody said, I hate the ay bendito. Ay bendito. It's like, listen, man, you know, we're all going through something. We're all, you know, one of the ways that I help my students, my kids, you know, other people that I love, I say, we all are going through something. Everybody has gone through some like major hits. These just happen to be the ones that we're going through. And as horrible as it is to know that, life is so hard, right? This just happens to be the set of bullshit that we have had to learn to contend with and function with and survive and teach through and thrive and somehow still be beautiful and kind and loving and love ourselves and love. I think we're, as artists, we have an advantage where we're able to create beautiful things out of these horrible things and just keep inspiring each other, like little by little, to push towards like these beautiful moments. And if you go back into those dark spaces, that's perfectly okay. That's okay. That's part of all of it. You don't have to be happy all the time. You can be pissed. It doesn't mean that you're weak. You can be hurt. It doesn't mean that you are not an amazing human being because you didn't, like, you're not like, I'm all healed up and I survived it all and I'm good to go. And look at you people still wallowing in your shit. That doesn't work. But man, to mention my bookshelf. Can I just, on the bookshelf. So this beautiful bookshelf, my fellow word lovers, was a Christmas gift from my boyfriend that he made with his own 2 hands. So just shout out to Christian for making this gorgeous bookshelf. When I said I have so many books, I know I have to give some away. He said, you just need somewhere to put them. He made that. So thank you. You can come and read all the books here. You know what? And this is one of the things, when all of this bullshit is done, these are the kind of things, this is a salon that needs to happen at home. So we can feed each other and we can hold each other and we can go into the room and have private time and smoke a joint and light a candle and roast some incense, a little vinito, or whatever it might be, whatever it might be. But these are the kind of space, these are the kind of spaces, like this virtual space is an actual space. It's so beautiful. But I can't wait so we can really come together and just, do this live. Like,
and that has to be something we make happen. So
yeah, man.
We will all do that together collectively. Roz, I know you wanted to answer the question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in real quick about, being able to be a victim, quote unquote, and a survivor simultaneously. For me, it depends on the day. Sometimes I look at him in the face and I just don't want to be bothered. Other times I look and I feel sad for him. And for me, it's an internal battle. Like, why do you feel bad for him? Why is it that you're not that angry anymore? So it fluctuates. Monday I could be okay. Tuesday I could just want him 6 feet under, and it's okay. It's okay. I was the one in the chat that put that I don't like the ay bendito, but that comes with the territory of sharing your pieces. And I like to think of myself as being, I guess, chosen to go through this experience so that I can help people who have gone through the same experience or, something similar, and I can help them in their journey. So to take away that victimization, I like to think of ways that I can contribute to making a change, for that population. And so that's what helps me cope with it. Is I am not a victim. I was, I guess, divinely chosen, to go through this, to be able to help other people. And that's part of my journey. That's part of why I was placed on this earth. So I like to look at it that way on a good day,
And why you're here tonight, because you cosmically just ended up here, sister. Like you just did. It just happened.
Thank you for having this space. I'm so this is dope. I appreciate it. And just thank you.
Yeah, I love all of y'all, everybody who's in the audience, everybody who was part of the showcase. I'll ask everybody to unmute if they want to give a last goodbye to each other. Ooh, I just muted everybody. That's not what I wanted to do.
Rude.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
All right.
I think everybody's brave.
Amor.
That's what I think. I
Amen.
think you're all brave.
So are you.
And one day I'll be brave too.
So it's important to remember for folks that are on here that are not survivors and are in a position to make change happen. What now? Because I know we had just entertained you, but there has to be an exchange here. And I know the question was asked of survivors whether or not we call ourselves a victim or a survivor. And I want to throw this question back out to those that have not experienced sexual violence. Are you an ally? What does an ally look like? Do you call yourself an accomplice? What does that look like? Do you know the difference between being an ally and being and performative allyship? Yeah, just want to throw that tidbit out there.
Really challenging question. Does anybody from the audience? I will ask anybody if they want to unmute. Does anybody want? No pressure.
Can I quickly add something to that, Paul? Okay, Ron, you have not moved since you've signed on, and my heart is breaking a bit. It means so much to me that you've stayed so present with us. I will remember this forever.
It was so amazing to hear all these powerful poems and stories, and from different angles and different ways sexual assault happens, which I didn't know. Rapists can be men or women. Paul, so powerful. I've heard your story for the last few weeks, in other venues, but it's so powerful and that you can speak about it. And Jodie, you mentioned the PTSD that I didn't realize that, PTSD can come in these forms as well. So I really, commend all of you for you being brave, that you're speaking out, and for healing, and for making us who didn't experience these things aware of what's going on, and that's the least we can do, to listen, because that's always important. Because I think someone else mentioned, I think it was Ross, that her family doesn't even come to open mics anymore because they are scared of, ooh, she's going to talk about this and this. But no, sometimes it is still listen. If your child comes to you and said, hey, so-and-so in my family did something to me, listen, don't just, I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, this was, I'm amazed myself, that, Paul, you always put these wonderful events together. And like you said, I came on in the beginning, I'm like, I need to stay here till the end to listen to everyone. And I think you need to do this more often to bring, I think this is the right way to bring awareness, to the world, that things like this happen. And like I said, in different forms. What I heard here from everyone, there is no one, the same. Bruja told us about her parents, Paul told us about his experience, Jodie, everyone else. It comes in so many different forms, and we need to be aware of this. So thank you all performers, for being brave, for healing yourself and healing us, and giving us the insight of what's going on. Thank you.
May I add something too? For the non-survivors, it's important that you guys sit in on these things, because you don't know who has been a victim at one point of this type of abuse. And these are boyfriends, these are best friends, these are cousins. So it sheds light on how, not to say that we should be treated like delicate little flowers and whatnot, but it helps understand from different perspectives, and it can help you learn to love a certain person, learn how to kind of maneuver and deal with them and coexist, because especially for a partner of somebody who has gone through sexual abuse, it is important that they sit in on these things because they need to know how it affects the relationships, how you know, why your partner reacts in a certain way to the touch, to certain topics. So, you know, it just sheds light where it needs to, and it's important to have, you know, to be all inclusive. This is not just a space for people who have experienced the abuse. It's also for people who, you know, just want to have that extra knowledge and know how to deal with, because we don't know. We look to the right, look to the left. We don't know who's gone through what. And so, you know, we just have to have developed that sensitivity and that, you know, enlightenment, and just know.
Yeah.
And Ross, I want to add to that because I think Paul or somebody else mentioned that as well. Yes, that there are the victims and the survivors, but we also need to think of the perpetrators, and they need to be educated as well. And I think by you telling us your story, you probably prevented another assault because you gave us insight of, you know, if you say something or touch somebody, that may be bad. You may not think that, it's nothing, but it may get into something. So I'm thinking that you may actually prevent, you know, and you know, things happening because you educated people, you know, that may have thought or may have, you know, become the ones doing the thing. So I think it's also important for that we need to educate, you know, and I think you guys did that very well today.
That's the aim. What we're trying to do at the college now is to instill more of these programs, to have these things in our first year seminar, in our orientations on our campus as a presence, and not just to be a footnote, you know, something that only comes up in April, to have it be more of a consistent conversation. I think Amanda wanted to say something, then I'm going to go to Arlene because Arlene's had her hand up for a minute. So Amanda, too shy, Amanda would like to go.
I'm super shy. When I'm in like new spaces, I'm super shy. So I wanted to really quickly circle back to something that Jodie said, because I think it was really, really fucking important as far as like accountability and like moving forward, because I'm all about the entertainment, but I'm also like, okay, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do with everything you just learned? How are you going to incorporate that into your life? And how are you going to do the work that you want to do? At the same time, I know that I don't always feel called to like force people to be accountable to do whatever. Like, I'm open to understanding that people don't give a fuck about this work, and I'm not gonna like shame them for it. I'm gonna have resistance and I'll deal with that. But I often like walk into spaces and I expect to hold people accountable, or I expect them to be accountable, or to hold themselves accountable, and they don't, and I become angry and resentful, and I no longer choose to do that. So I just wanted to like, I had a question to your comment. Like, what is your process for when you're met with people who just perpetuate violence, don't give a fuck about the work that you do? Do you like walk away, or do you pursue accountability?
I have to assess my energy level for the day. I also have to, we're not just people who have experienced sexual violence. We're business owners, parents, spouses. So we have to think about that too, because if someone rips open a wound, we have to think about like how we're gonna go about our day, right? Sometimes I make the decision that this person is no longer gonna receive my business, my money. Sometimes I make a decision to say, I say to them, I don't use this language, it's not trauma informed, and that's it. I'm not interested in providing free labor on education that you can look up online. But if you want to pick my brain, you can just pick your preferred payment first. Yeah, it's what is that saying? You can't fix stupid? You just walk away. And sadly, a lot of the times it's people who you love. It's loving. These are your parents, these are your cousins, but you realize at what cost, like what does their love cost to you? Does it cost you silence? You know, if you want to go to that Thanksgiving dinner because you miss your cousins or your aunt who you haven't seen in a long time, but that means that you can't talk about your healing, you can't talk about your poetry, you can't talk about like your revelation you discovered in therapy, you can't talk about the latest book that you've read. You have to look at the cost of that, right? It's very important because first and foremost, your mental health has to be preserved. And I think boundary setting is a great way to teach people how much you love yourself, and then they can get on board or not. It's up to them. The education is up to them.
So many gems. Oh, I think Roz, did you want to add on to that? I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I just the whole family thing and the baggage that comes with, you know, just sharing and whatnot. I would like to share that I was practically disowned by my mom just recently for merely expressing the fact that I have chosen to go to therapy. So, you know, that hit home when Jodie was speaking about that. And it's important. It's important to take whatever measures you need to take to just fulfill whatever it is that you need to fulfill. Go through your journey, feel the feels, and it doesn't matter what happens. You know, whoever is meant to be in your life, no matter what the title, is going to gravitate back into your life if they belong there. But you know, and it's hard for me to say that because this is my mom, you know, in my example. But at this point, you know, it's something like I have to work on me for me. And, you know, going back to, you know, the question that Amanda posed for Jodie, and how do you deal with someone who's not ready to accept these things and speak about them, and you're met with opposition. I used to fight every single battle. It didn't matter how big, how small, but you know what? That gets exhausting. So whatever, you know, if you want to believe what you want to believe, say what you want to say, sometimes people just understand from their level of and their perception, and it's okay. That's something that I'm working on to kind of, you know, just accept that, because I'm so, you know, as a part of, you know, as a worker for the criminal justice system, I am an advocate for people in the criminal justice system. I want to be heard. I want my clients' rights to be protected, but sometimes it's just not worth it. Not worth it at all. Pick your battles, pretty much.
Yeah, beautifully put. You can't win everybody over, right? Like if people don't want to be allies, then they have identified themselves as such, and you can move forward from there. I think Arlene has had a question for a minute, so let's let Arlene.
Hi guys. I just wanted to say how incredibly powerful it's been tonight, and very hard and difficult because it brought me back to my time where I myself have survived it myself, and as a child and as a teenager, and then as a young woman as well. And I think I love the community that is going on in here right now. And the support. And I think it's so important, like I mentioned before, we have to have that empathy and sympathy towards people. It don't matter whether you know their story, their journey. We all been through something. Rape and don't discriminate gender or age. You just a victim, unfortunately. Um, I wanted to share something because, as I understand, you work with college and young women. Um, my forte was medical. My background is medical. I I became a photographer and I started writing as part of healing, dealing with so many other things, cancer for once, and also I was angry for many years. Kind of affected relationships, and I have been extremely blessed that my husband is an outstanding man, and he has understand me with the brokenness that came with me of my situation, and I love him for that. And I just wanted to mention, I worked in the medical field for years. I had a patient who was in a domestic violence situation. Month prior, before that, I was reading in a magazine about the black dot. My patient had a black dot in her hand, and I just wanted to make sure maybe you could share that with all the ladies. Once you see a person, a female or male, don't matter, with a black dot, is asking for help, is under an abusive relationship, domestic violence, that can save someone's life. I had this patient who used to come all the time, prenatal, and I used to take care of her. And in the midst of everything, I will always see something different on her. She was so heavily covered on makeup. And that day that she opened her hand and waved it, I was like, oh my God, oh shit. Like I realized it because I read it, that she was going through something. And she started crying. And through the tears, you could see her bruises in her face. That impacted me tremendously. And so I wanted to share that because I think it could be helpful. You know, unfortunately, there's going to be assholes everywhere. There's people that don't understand the meaning of no, you know, and we have to fight for each other and we got to stick with each other. So thank you for tonight.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for
So
sharing.
much love and respect for all of you guys.
Love for you, fellow survivor.
Thank you.
You're officially part of the showcase now. No, thank you for sharing that information, because I mean, like that, those are things that not all, even social workers, educators aren't taught. People who are in the medical field, these are things that should be more universally, taught. I think Imogen had a question.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing. It is so difficult because every time we share, right, it's taking a risk because we never know who's going to say what. And even if they've gone through it themselves, it doesn't mean that they're going to say the right thing. And also the trust issues and the triggering. I mean, I can't show my face because of what happened to me. And I heard both Roz and somebody else, I think Jani and somebody else as well, talk about family and how, like going through what I've gone through, I realized how family training, quote unquote, training from family, accustoming, upraising, certain upbringing from family is how I still let in people who will dismiss my boundaries, who will basically shame me for having my boundaries. Just walk right across them, you know. And it is so difficult when we don't have that foundation, when we can't fall back onto those people who they do, in some ways they do love us in their own way, but obviously not in the way that we need them to. And it is so difficult to build from that and find the right people to count on. I feel like I have to do it over and over and over again, and it is exhausting.
Thank you for sharing with us, Imogen, like just deeply. And yeah, I mean, like family does help condition these things, you know. Somebody in the chat said grooming, right? These are things that, you know, abuse happens repeatedly to people who are abused, and it's not always something we're comfortable talking about. You know, like my first instance happened when I was 8, but I'm still not ready to write about that fully because I'm still working my way through it because of the proximity. So, you know, we all have our ways, our timelines, you know, and I think everybody has to come to it in their own time, in their own way. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you show your face or not. Imogen, thank you for sharing your story with us. Okay, so would anybody like to speak on anything else during our roundtable session? If anybody wants to, they can raise their hand, throw it up in the chat.
Sorry, may I just say that I am so glad you guys are doing this within an institution. I wish it was done in an, you know, like younger institution, elementary school, before that, preschool, in terms of boundary setting, in terms of, because our society still requires women to say no rather than to require people to ask for permission before they touch or try to, you know, because there is still the sense that somehow, especially women's body, but really just body boundaries, period, is that women's bodies are public property. And it is so horrible that we don't have a common education system that get that across, period.
Yeah, that's something that's severely lacking. I mean, we have DARE, but how much of an impact did DARE have on most of us who did dope anyway? I think it would do so much better to start educating and being real in health courses from a younger age, so that we have these developing adolescents becoming, you know, in touch with their hormones, know how to control their actions, impulses, etc. I'll just ask if anybody wants to unmute, step up to the stage. If not, I think we'll close it out for the night. This has been such a really healing, powerful night. I want to thank everybody who attended. I appreciate you all, your beautiful questions, your support in the chat, being here, being allies, hopefully, all of us. Thank you to Jodie, thank you to Jani, thank you to Bruja, thank you to Tori, thank you to Roz, thank you to Joe, thank you to everybody who had to dip, my students, May and Destiny for putting this together. I love y'all. I just want to close this out with everybody throwing up a heart with your hands, with your screen, whatever, because we're survivors, we support each other, we love each other. And I'm gonna see y'all on the other side. Beautiful night, everybody.